CompTIA CAS-005 exam practice questions with explanations are available in the video for you to study. Within a SCADA, a business needs access to the historian server in order to gather metric about the functionality of the environment. Which of the following actions should be taken to address this requirement? A. Isolating the historian server for connections only from the SCADA environment. B. Publishing the $share from SCADA to the enterprise. C. Deploying a screened subnet between 11 and SCADA. D. Adding the business workstations to the SCADA domain. The answer is A. The best action to address the requirement of accessing the historian server within a SCADA system is to isolate the historian server for connections only from the SCADA environment. Here's why. Security and isolation. Isolating the historian server ensures that only authorized devices within the SCADA environment can connect to it. This minimizes the attack surface and protects sensitive data from unauthorized access. Access control. By restricting access to the historian server to only SCADA devices, the organization can better control and monitor interactions, ensuring that only legitimate queries and data retrievals occur. Best practices for critical infrastructure. Following the principle of least privilege, isolating critical components like the historian server is a standard practice in securing SCADA systems, reducing the risk of cyber attacks. All organization is concerned about insider threats from employees who have individual access to encrypted material. Which of the following techniques best addresses this issue? A. SSO with MFA. B. SATing and hashing. C. Account federation with hardware tokens. D. SAE. E. Key splitting. The answer is E. The technique that best addresses the issue of insider threats from employees who have individual access to encrypted material is key splitting. Here's why. Key splitting. Key splitting involves dividing a cryptographic key into multiple parts and distributing these parts among different individuals or systems. This ensures that no single individual has complete access to the key, thereby mitigating the risk of insider threats. Increased security. By requiring multiple parties to combine their key parts to access encrypted material, key splitting provides an additional layer of security. This approach is particularly useful in environments where sensitive data needs to be protected from unauthorized access by insiders. Compliance and best practices. Key splitting aligns with best practices and regulatory requirements for handling sensitive information, ensuring that access is tightly controlled and monitored. The Identity and Access Management team is sending logs to the SIEM for continuous monitoring. The deployed log collector is forwarding logs to the SIEM. However, only false positive alerts are being generated. Which of the following is the most likely reason for the inaccurate alerts? A. The compute resources are insufficient to support the SIEM. B. The SIEM indexes are 100 large. C. The data is not being properly parsed. D. The retention policy is not properly configured. The answer is C. Proper parsing of data is crucial for the SIEM to accurately interpret and analyze the logs being forwarded by the log collector. If the data is not parsed correctly, the SIEM may misinterpret the logs, leading to false positives and inaccurate alerts. Ensuring that the log data is correctly parsed allows the SIEM to correlate and analyze the logs effectively, which is essential for accurate alerting and monitoring. Which of the following best explains the importance of determining organization risk appetite when operating with a constrained budget? A. Risk appetite directly impacts acceptance of high-impact low-likelihood events. B. Organizational risk appetite varies from organization to organization. C. Budgetary pressure drives risk mitigation planning in all companies. D. Risk appetite directly influences which breaches are disclosed publicly. The answer is A. Risk appetite is the amount of risk an organization is willing to accept to achieve its objectives. When operating with a constrained budget, understanding the organization's risk appetite is crucial because it helps prioritize security investments based on the level of risk the organization is willing to tolerate. High-impact, low-likelihood events may be deemed acceptable if they fall within the organization's risk appetite, allowing for budget allocation to other critical areas. Properly understanding and defining risk appetite ensures that limited resources are used effectively to manage risks that align with the organization's strategic goals. Developers have been creating and managing cryptographic material on their personal laptops fix use in production environment. A security engineer needs to initiate a more secure process. Which of the following is the best strategy for the engineer to use? A. Disabling the BIOS and moving to UEFI. B. Managing secrets on the VTPM hardware. C. Employing shielding low prevent LMI. D. Managing key material on HSM. The answer is D. The best strategy for securely managing cryptographic material is to use a hardware security module, HSM. Here's why. Security and integrity. HSMs are specialized hardware devices designed to protect and manage digital keys. They provide high levels of physical and logical security, ensuring that cryptographic material is well protected against tampering and unauthorized access. Centralized key management. Using HSMs allows for centralized management of cryptographic keys, reducing the risks associated with decentralized and potentially insecure key storage practices, such as on personal laptops. Compliance and best practices. HSMs comply with various industry standards and regulations, such as FIPS 140-2, for secure key management. This ensures that the organization adheres to best practices and meets compliance requirements. Users are willing passwords on paper because of the number of passwords needed in an environment. Which of the following solutions is the best way to manage this situation and decrease risks? A. Increasing password complexity to require 31 least 16 characters. B. Implementing an SSO solution and integrating with applications. C. Requiring users to use an open-source password manager. D. Implementing an MFA solution to avoid reliance only on passwords. The answer is B. Implementing a single sign-on (SSO) solution and integrating it with applications is the best way to manage the situation and decrease risks. Here's why. Reduced password fatigue. SSO allows users to log in once and gain access to multiple applications and systems without needing to remember and manage multiple passwords. This reduces the likelihood of users writing down passwords. Improved security. By reducing the number of passwords users need to manage, SSO decreases the attack surface and potential for password-related security breaches. It also allows for the implementation of stronger authentication methods. User convenience. SSO improves the user experience by simplifying the login process, which can lead to higher productivity and satisfaction. A security team is responding to malicious activity and needs to determine the scope of impact the malicious activity appears to affect certain version of an application used by the organization. Which of the following actions best enables the team to determine the scope of impact? A. Performing a port scan. B. Inspecting egress network traffic. C. Reviewing the asset inventory. D. Analyzing user behavior. The answer is C. Reviewing the asset inventory allows the security team to identify all instances of the affected application versions within the organization. By knowing which systems are running the vulnerable versions, the team can assess the full scope of the impact, determine which systems might be compromised, and prioritize them for further investigation and remediation. Performing a port scan, option A, might help identify open ports but does not provide specific information about the application versions. Inspecting egress network traffic, option B, and analyzing user behavior, option D, are important steps in the incident response process but do not directly identify which versions of the application are affected. A software development team requires valid data for internal tests. Company regulations, however, do not allow the use of this data in clear text. Which of the following solutions best meet these requirements? A. Configuring data hashing. B. Deploying tokenization. C. Replacing data with null record. D. Implementing data obfuscation. The answer is B. Tokenization replaces sensitive data elements with non-sensitive equivalents, called tokens, that can be used within the internal tests. The original data is stored securely and can be retrieved if necessary. This approach allows the software development team to work with data that appears realistic and valid without exposing the actual sensitive information. Configuring data hashing, option A, is not suitable for test data as it transforms the data into a fixed length value that is not usable in the same way as the original data. Replacing data with null records, option C, is not useful as it does not provide valid data for testing. Data obfuscation, option D, could be an alternative but might not meet the regulatory requirements as effectively as tokenization. An organization is developing an AI-enabled digital worker to help employees complete common tasks such as template development, editing, research, and scheduling. As part of the AI workload, the organization wants to implement guardrails within the platform. Which of the following should the company do to secure the AI environment? A. Limit the platform's abilities to only non-sensitive functions. B. Enhance the training model's effectiveness. C. Grant the system the ability to self-govern. D. Require end-user acknowledgement of organizational policies. The answer is A. Limiting the platform's abilities to only non-sensitive functions helps to mitigate risks associated with AI operations. By ensuring that the AI-enabled digital worker is only allowed to perform tasks that do not involve sensitive or critical data, the organization reduces the potential impact of any security breaches or misuse. Enhancing the training model's effectiveness, option B, is important but does not directly address security guardrails. Granting the system the ability to self-govern, option C, could increase risk as it may act beyond the organization's control. Requiring end-user acknowledgement of organizational policies, option D, is a good practice but does not implement technical guardrails to secure the AI environment. A company hosts a platform as a service solution with a web-based front end, through which customers interact with datasets. A security administrator needs to deploy controls to prevent application-focused attacks. Which of the following most directly supports the administrator's objective? A. Improving security dashboard visualization on SIEM. B. Rotating API access and authorization keys every 2 months. C. Implementing application load balancing and cross-region availability. D. Creating WAF policies for relevant programming languages. The answer is D. The best way to prevent application-focused attacks for a platform as a service solution with a web-based front end is to create Web Application Firewall (WAF) policies for relevant programming languages. Here's why. Application-focused attack prevention. WAFs are designed to protect web applications by filtering and monitoring HTTP traffic between a web application and the Internet. They help prevent attacks such as SQL injection, cross-site scripting, XSS, and other application layer attacks. Customizable rules. WAF policies can be tailored to the specific programming languages and frameworks used by the web application, providing targeted protection based on known vulnerabilities and attack patterns. Real-time protection. WAFs provide real-time protection, blocking malicious requests before they reach the application, thereby enhancing the security posture of the platform.